Welcome to the second of a series of accessibility in the Disney parks. Jen and I are at Animal Kingdom. Today we're going to take a look at how Animal Kingdom does accessibility. Come along.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the greatest show on earth.
Talked at length in our Magic Kingdom accessibility video on how to handle transportation to and from the theme parks. There's only one form of transportation that comes to Animal Kingdom, and that is bus. So if you'll remember in that previous video, we talked about ECVs and wheelchairs accessibility on those buses. The older buses can hold up to 2, the newer buses can hold up to 3. It does have to fit within a certain size, but most wheelchairs and most ECVs will fit. You drive up a ramp, the driver will assist you if you need it. They'll secure your wheelchair, your ECV, and then you'll ride. They'll put the ramp back down when you reach your destination, and you'll just drive right off. It's very, very simple. It's a very effective form of transportation. The other option is that you can choose a minivan. They do have accessible minivans. With those, you don't even have to get out of the ECV. You drive up to the back of the vehicle. It has a lift. It lifts you up and you drive in, and then same thing in reverse. So those are also a good option if you don't want to wait on the bus and you don't mind paying a little bit to get to the park. So just like Magic Kingdom, there is handicap accessible parking here at Animal Kingdom. It is the closest to the front as you can get. Right behind that is preferred parking, and then standard parking behind that. As you can see here on the map, this is a good spot for parking. It's close to the front, close to security. Animal Kingdom also has courtesy wheelchairs. If you didn't see our first video, these are available to help you get from the parking lot to the front of the park. You can find them at different locations, and they are, like I said, free to use. But once you get to the front of the park, you will have to leave it there. If you need to rent a wheelchair, you can rent a wheelchair at the front. So once you come into the park, immediately to your right, before you enter the Oasis, is the wheelchair, stroller, and ECV rental counter. Wheelchairs are $12 per day or $10 for length of stay. So again, you'll just come up to the counter, you'll rent your wheelchair. If it's for the day, you pay your $12, and then you have use of that wheelchair all day. If you're doing the length of stay, it's $10 per day, so times 5 days is $50. And what you'll do in that instance is that you'll rent your wheelchair, you'll save your receipt. If you leave for the day and come back, so say you're gonna go home and swim in the afternoon or take a nap and come back to the park later, you will show your receipt when you come back to the park, and they will get you your wheelchair again. Now, same if you're leaving the park and going to a different park. So, and if that's the case, you will leave your wheelchair, take your receipt. When you enter the new park, you'll get to the wheelchair rental counter at that location, and then they will get you a wheelchair there. So you're not gonna take that wheelchair with you when you leave the park. Now, ECVs are about the same. ECVs are $65 per day. They're not available length of stay. They're only available for day of. But the same sort of scenario exists for ECVs. If you leave the park to go home and then come back later in the day, you just bring your receipt. They will have that ECV available and waiting for you. If you leave the park and you park hop, you still have paid for that ECV. But the difference is that ECVs are on a first come, first served basis. So you could possibly get to the other park and they not have one available. So from the front of the park, we just went over there to the right where the ECV and wheelchair rental. If you wheel around here to the left, that is where guest relations is. Now, guest relations is where you're going to rent that assistive listening device, the device that can do closed captioning for you. So the next spot that we recommend for getting away is right behind Tree BBQ. I've pointed this location out before. We're here right at noon right now, and it is still just not busy back here. It's a big sprawling space. There's gazebos, there's tables outside. We're at a tall table right on the water. It's a beautiful, relaxing place just to sit and waste the day away.
It is quiet, peaceful, but as far as breeze goes, it's not in an open area, so you don't get that as much.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, this is the seating area for Tree BBQ, but it rarely gets packed. So if you're gonna come near a meal time, just know that it's gonna be more crowded. If you come at an off time, you're virtually gonna have this place to yourself.
Most definitely. So in Animal Kingdom, they have a service for sign language on Saturdays and Tuesdays. They also feature a handheld device that you can get at guest services. It's a $25 refundable deposit. With that device, it's going to show you closed captioning, and it will also amplify the sounds within the ride. Also, at a lot of the shows, they do have closed captioning. You just have to ask for it.
They also have the big Braille tactile map in the guest relations. So if you need that map or you need the Braille guide, you can get all of those things here at guest relations. Also, wherever you get maps, you will also find the Guests with Disabilities map. This is different than the normal map. It has some more information in there if you have mobility issues, visual, hearing, service animals, or so forth. Something we didn't bring up in the last video is probably worth talking about is that in the front of each park they do have lockers. So if you have items that you don't want to carry around with you all day or don't want to have in your stroller or wheelchair or ECV, you can rent a locker and then keep those here and retrieve them throughout the day.
Besides guest services at the front of the park, you also have what the blue umbrellas are, and those are going to be your guest experience team. So they're going to be able to help you, like for instance, if your app goes down and you want to make a DAS reservation, if you need to know where something is, definitely locate those throughout the park.
They're guest relations cast members. They're very knowledgeable and very friendly and eager to help.
Most definitely. Service animals are defined as a dog or a miniature horse that's been trained to do work or perform tasks that benefit an individual with a disability. The owner must remain in control of their animal at all times. Cast members cannot take control of animals, and they must remain on a leash. So there are going to be animal restrictions as far as what rides they can ride and what they cannot. The ones that they cannot ride are going to be Rafiki Planet Watch, Avatar Flight of Passage, Dinosaur, Expedition Everest, the Cali River Rapids,
and lastly, the aviary area of the Maharaja Jungle Track. So we have another, we'll call it unbusy area for you. Now this one comes with an asterisk because this one is in direct sun. There's no shade to be found, but it's the former amphitheater. There's this section and then there's another section on the other side of Everest over there. And this was built for the no longer performed nighttime show and then most recently Kite Tails. So it's currently not being used at all. So there's always plenty of space to come over here and spread out and find a place to sit and relax for a minute. But again, just be warned, I hope you have an umbrella or it's maybe not a sunny day because this one gets hot.
Here in Animal Kingdom, there's several restroom areas. Not all of them are handicap accessible. One that we noticed that really stood out to us was over here in Asia, located right behind us. It's got not only the companion, but it's handicap accessible. It also has a water station in it as well. So it seems like a good stopping point for someone who needed those accommodations.
Yeah, and like we mentioned in our other videos, there are companion restrooms at most of the restrooms, but not all of them. So if you look at your guide map, it will tell you whether or not it's handicap accessible and whether or not it has a companion restroom.
All right, so here at Animal Kingdom, the first aid station and baby care center is going to be located to the left of the tree, heading towards Africa. So they have a lot of options to offer. They do have a quiet space for the bigger kids in the baby area while you're taking care of baby in the other room. I actually got video of the baby area over here in Animal Kingdom because there wasn't anyone in there currently. They also have first aid over here. So it's going to be the same as we covered over in Magic Kingdom. So there are several services that first aid offers. First, they can store any kind of medical things you have. That meaning like oxygen, insulin, whether it be just room temperature or refrigerated. They can store breast pumps. They cannot actually store the breast milk itself. Some of the things that they actually offer is from just over-the-counter Tylenol, ibuprofen. They have Benadryl in there. They have Band-Aids. They do have the actual moleskin Band-Aids in there as well for those hot spots that you might get on your feet. If you get overheated, they have little rooms set off with curtains pulled. just know that like the next room over, there may be someone in there that's very sick. They are available for 30 minutes. Anything that exceeds that, you're going to be asked if you could go back to your hotel room, or if you feel like you've gotten sicker and you need to go to an urgent care or the hospital, they can help arrange that for you as well. The next quiet spot coming up is our favorite spot.
It is our favorite. This one is on the pathway from Asia to Africa.
Yes.
And it is right after you pass Mr. Kamal's and Caravan Road. Right up sort of behind that little food booth is a trail.
It's really weird because we're right in the middle of the park and it does not feel like we're right in the middle of the park. Also, it is wheelchair and stroller accessible.
Yeah, it's a big wide path. There's a little gazebo up here with a fan and some tables, but it's quiet. Rarely anybody comes up here, and we love it up here. Okay, so we're going to talk about accessing attraction queues and what that process looks like. Walt Disney World Resort offers a variety of programs that assist guests in accessing attraction queues. So some of those methods are rider switch, single rider, attraction queue re-entry, disability access service, otherwise known as DAS, Stroller is a wheelchair, and we can also talk about how to navigate a queue with a service animal. So let's talk about Rider Switch for a second. Now, Rider Switch is a program originally designed mostly for parents of small children, so that one parent could ride, the other parent will wait outside with the child, and then when the first adult was done, the other would wait, and then the second would go ride the attraction. This also applies to someone with a disability who cannot ride or who chooses not to ride. If you have multiple people in your party, you can utilize that same Rider Switch program.
The single rider program is available to all guests. You go through the line, it's going to be a separate queue. So it is a good option sometimes. Sometimes it can be quite lengthy.
Right, a lot of times families will go up the single rider line as a family, knowing that they will ride separately. But that's fully acceptable use of the single rider line as long as you recognize that you aren't going to ride together. But it does clog those lines up, and so don't think that a single rider line means that it's only for people by themselves, because that's not the way that works. If everything works as planned, when you go up that single rider line, it will be a shorter wait than the standard standby queue.
So we come to attraction queue re-entry. What this means is that whenever a guest is in the line with their party and they decide that they can't stand there, they start having anxiety or whatever it might be, they're allowed to step out of the line, let the cast member know that they've stepped out of the line, and then once they do so and their party gets to the front of the line, they can rejoin their party.
Yeah, and this stemmed from people who had maybe incontinence issues and needed to, to stand in an hour and a half line, who needed to get out and use the restroom. And so that's also a fully acceptable use of this program.
Yes. Next on our list, Disability Access Service. It's abbreviated DAS, is one of our programs offered at Walt Disney World theme parks, intended to accommodate those guests who, due to a developmental disability like autism or similar, are unable to wait in a conventional queue for an extended period of time. So in order to use Dash, you'll use your My Disney Experience. You'll click on something that pops up, a little box that pops up there. It'll say Disability Access. You'll click on that. It'll pull up all the rides for that particular park. You'll click on that ride. It will give you a DAS return time. Whenever you click on that, you have to go in, select your party, and then press continue to do that afterwards. So at that time, you can return to that ride or anytime after.
So DAS has changed a lot recently. Program just changed. It was being abused, according to Disney. The occurrence of people using DAS from 2018 to 2024 went up 500%. And so they sort of decided to rein that program back in. Now you have to get pre-approved prior to your vacation, or if you're local, you have to get approved prior to your trip into the park. So the last thing we're going to talk about really quickly is Stroller as a wheelchair. This is for people who have a child whom they use their stroller as a wheelchair device. It's also for someone who needs to carry medical equipment. You can also do this.
Yes.
You go to guest services either at your hotel or here at the park. They will give you a red tag to put on that stroller. It allows you to do a couple of different things. It allows you to use that stroller as a wheelchair or an ECV on a bus. So they will strap that stroller in. You don't need to fold it like you would normally have to. It also allows you to go through the attraction queue with that stroller, whereas normally they'll make you park the stroller outside the attraction. With this, it's a wheelchair, so you roll it all the way through the attraction. Once you get to the attraction, the cast member will take that stroller and move it around to the exit of the attraction. So when you get off, it'll be right there waiting for you, just like you do with a wheelchair. Okay, so what do you do if you have an ECV around the park when you get to your attractions? This process is fairly simple. When you get to the front of the attraction, you're going to talk to the cast member who's at the host, and they're going to guide you to an area for you to park your ECV. At that point, they're going to have a wheelchair there for you, and you're going to transfer from that ECV to the wheelchair. You're going to take the wheelchair all the way through the queue. You're going to ride the attraction, whether it is you're going to transfer out of the wheelchair, or some attractions you can wheel the wheelchair right onto the attraction.
Yeah.
Once you're done, you're going to take that wheelchair to the exit of the attraction where your ECV is going to be waiting for you. You leave that wheelchair and transfer back to the ECV. Easy peasy, mac and cheesy.
So let's talk about food allergies, because there's a lot of them. If you happen to have a food allergy and you have more than one, I would suggest calling or emailing over, and we'll post the email down below. And ask them for a food guide or some direction in where you should eat, what you should eat with the allergies that you have. Most restaurants do have an allergy menu on the MDE so that you can look those up. If you're thinking about doing like little kiosks or things by the pool, that kind of thing, just know that most of them do not have allergy friendly foods there. If you're going to like an ice cream parlor or some sort, you can ask to see the ingredients, and they'll be more than happy to present that to you, so that way you can make a good decision on whether or not you should eat that or not.
All right, so there is Animal Kingdom for you. This park is big and it's expansive, and if you have accessibility issues, I hope that this video has helped you sort of pinpoint where those services are. We hope that what we're bringing you is accurate and up to date. Changes constantly happen at Disney,
Yes.
and so we try to be as accurate as possible. But please understand if something is already out of date, that as of right now we're giving you the current information. As always, if you need any additional information or if you have questions or comments, please leave those below. If this is your first time with us, we encourage you to subscribe and become part of the Lost in a Wonderland family.
Most definitely.
So guys, thank you as always for coming along with us. If never lost, then never found.
So go get lost.